Hello, my name's Marcus, aka Salem Queer, and this is my horror channel. Welcome to a new video. If you're new to my channel, this is a horror thriller channel that talks about movie reviews, rankings of movies, discussing the books, horror merchandise, the whole gamut. And today's video we are going to do a movie review of The Craft Legacy. Again, if you're new to this channel, how I normally do my movie reviews is that I look at the three ingredients of storytelling, filmography, and the acting. And then I concise a score based on those three out of a 10 ranking score, with 10 being fabulous, awesome, great, wonderful. I would greatly appreciate it if you all could subscribe to my channel. It would help me out more, getting more content out and spreading the word out and getting more people involved with comments and hearing their opinions and sharing their ideas about movies that I love dearly in my heart. Also, I have an Instagram page that is Salem Queer, one word, and on there I do fun stuff of posting with memes and what I buy on my DVD collection, including also quick reviews of movies or TV shows that I watch. And if I am really in a crunch, if I just want to give you all an idea, that's where I do those kind of quick reviews. But let's dive into the movie review. Before I go into the three ingredients, I quickly just want to throw out that this is just an opinion based. My opinion does not mean that it matters the most. This is just my feelings and thoughts about the Craft Legacy movie, and that's the wonderful thing about horror community is everyone has a different taste in entertainment. So again, don't take this too sensitively, and also just share your thoughts and comments down below about your thoughts and feelings of the Craft Legacy. So the general idea of this movie, or synopsis of this, is that we have Lily, and she's a new girl moving into a new city with her mom, and then she is kind of get an idea that she's kind of like a different outcast. There's that whole saying that her mom tells her that, you know, your difference is your power and it's what makes you strong. And her mom meets this new man, that's David's character, and David has 3 sons who are teenagers around Lily's age too, and they all just start like living together. And there's like plans that David and Helen, or David's character and Michelle's character, had to marry. Still kind of unclear if there was a date or how they met, all that. We have Lily starting her day at school, and she has her period, and she kind of has like a heavy flow, and there's a bully that kind of just like points it out to the whole class and makes a joke out of it. Then she dashes out of the room, goes to the bathroom, and then that's where we see the 3 other girls in the coven come into the bathroom, and just that's where the whole bond starts. The bond kind of seems pretty quick compared to if you were comparing the Legacy and the older Craft movie. I would say the Legacy is pretty relationship building quick among the new coven. And then we kind of see the girls just practicing magic together, and they talk about there's like the 4 stages of magic as well. Then they get into the stage where they're starting to time freezing and then all that good stuff. But now we have Timmy, who's the guy that made fun of Lily during that time she was having a period. He has a spell casted upon himself from the girls to make him more woke, he would say. And that's where we kind of see him opening up about his sexuality, about him hooking up with one of Lily's future stepbrothers, and talking about his just bisexuality. And then we see Lily perform a awkward love spell on him through chanting while masturbating using his sweater. Kind of that's different, I'll give you that. And then all of a sudden we kind of see, well, David plotting. We don't know. Again, this is where I'll go into later on about the storytelling plot issues. But we kind of see David like pushing his values and ideologies of masculinity and weakness and what makes a man. And we don't know per se if David did kill Timmy or how he did it or the reason or purpose of killing Timmy. It's pretty unclear with again, plot writing. And that's where it just sparks with the main girls, the girls in the coven, how they start to blame themselves that, oh, did we do this? Were we the cause of it? And they find out about Lily performing the love spell. Again, breaks the group apart because they're like, oh no, that's against our rules, against our coven, and we're going to bind ourselves from our powers. And then David is trying to get, or David's character is trying to get Lily to will her powers to him. And then we see the girls just kind of come back together, fight David's character, and they perform a circle chant and put him in fire. And then after that, that's where we see pretty much what I consider the best part, which is Lily meets her mom, her biological mom, which I should have mentioned earlier, my bad. In the middle of the movie, Lily goes through her files that her legal mom has kept in a filing cabinet, and she finds out that she's been adopted. And then that's when her legal mom takes her to go see her biological mom. And this is where I thought maybe, I didn't want to assume that it was Nancy, but I was like, maybe it's like Chris. That would be kind of interesting to see Chris like in a trauma insane asylum type of thing. But then like as the scene was progressing and showing the trauma center and all, I was like, okay, this is definitely gonna be Nancy. It's not that secretive or anything, but it would have been a good twist. It would have been. But that's when we see Nancy. We just kind of see Lily and her look at each other, and Lily introduces herself saying, I'm your daughter, and then we see Nancy's face. She turns and looks at her, and that's it. That's it. Okay, so I honestly watched this movie 3 times, and I did not expect myself to watch it 3 times. I thought it would be more of a one and done. That kind of gives you an idea of where this movie review is kind of going, but we'll get there at that point. Let's dive into the people that are involved with the movie. So this movie came out in 2020, and it was announced earlier 2020 about it being released this year, but we got some postings and some announcements back in, I remember, 2018 and 2017 of a remake was being in the works. And with the cast that I noticed that was in there, it was a lot of new cast. The 4 main protagonist girls were definitely new into the Hollywood business, but I like to say that Kaylee Spinney, the girl that played Lily, she just gave off some Hefner vibes with her short hair and her look, and honestly kind of her acting too. So I thought that was a perfect fit. And they also had some well-known actors, but one that I haven't seen particularly in a while, which was David DuVanti and then also Michelle Mahogany. So if you don't know who they are, David's from like the X-Files works, and looking back at Michelle's time, she has a lot of like drama romance movies. For example, the first one I think of her movies is one with Patrick Dempsey, and that is Man of Honor. But I don't really see much of horror in her background, but I could be wrong, and if I am wrong, please just comment below and inform me what horror or thriller movie that she's been in previously. Before we get pretty nitty gritty too, I think it'd probably be best if we just talk about the best parts of the movie. I think, like, where do I begin? See, this is where the movie review is, you kind of get an idea where it's going. From the beginning, I did like the title card. The title card was pretty nostalgic, good, feels, but it also kept it kind of its own, but then played around with the cult classic people, or cult classic community that has that following for the craft. And I also enjoyed how they normalized the trans community, trans character in cinema now, and not overkilling it and not overdoing it. That was great and very tasteful in my opinion. And I also enjoyed the very last scene, which included Nancy, but I wish there was more to that, and it's kind of counterintuitive, and we'll get into that a little bit here soon. But honestly, that's all like the good parts I really enjoyed of this movie. But I don't even know where to begin with what I did not like, because there's just so much I didn't like, and very frustrated with this movie. But if I just think of going down the list, let's talk about the acting first. The acting wasn't like terrible. I felt everyone was a good fit for that. Hi. This is Ulrich. Anyway, the acting was like good. There's just honestly probably two moments I can think of that I did not really care for the acting. One of them was Michelle's character, which was Helen. And then in that moment I did not care for her is her transitioning of like telling Lily about her biological mom in that moment, and it just seemed kind of awkward, and it seemed not genuine or authentic. Another moment that I just didn't care for the acting was David's character. He just seemed very flatlined to me, very bland. I did not get sinister, scary, uncomfortable vibes too much. The only thing that was uncomfortable is the whole masculinity, motivational speaker ingredient of his character. But other than that, I just felt it was nothing special, and I kind of feel sad for David since he hasn't been in a lot of like big screen or big project names, so I felt like this could have been his opportunity, but kind of dropped the ball in that way. And let's discuss the filmography. So the filmography is the special effects, the shots. It's a mixed vibes or mixed feels about that. I did like some shots of it because it felt like it was playing with some of the nostalgic feels of the previous craft. And I also did like how they're trying to do more of its original style to it too. But that CGI was shit. I hated, and I use hate very strongly, hated the CGI with David's character when he is shape-shifting, for example. That was like so awful, it looked so fake. And when his eyes would go black, I don't know, that was not good. Intentions are not good effort. But also some of the magic was, I liked some of the magic moments. The one magic moment of the girls that was very original and I did enjoy was when they were practicing in the woods and they kind of made time stop. And we didn't get to see that in the original craft, so this is a different type of power or a different type of witchcraft that we're seeing. The other elements or the other types of craft that they were doing, it just was not working for me. It looked like cheap Snapchat, Instagram filters that are being applied. For example, when Lourdes, the trans witch, was performing her magic, it just seemed, performing her magic when the girls are getting ready for a party. Again, I'm like, that just seems so cheap how that magic was done. And then the other moment when they're doing Light as a Feather, Stiff as a Board, that's a very iconic moment, especially in the cult following of the craft. And it would have been neat if we just spent a little bit more time with that scene to see the whole thing just done. And I feel like everyone would just enjoy that moment as well too. Another magic moment too was, it just appeared to me that the girls' witch or craft was appearing to be more superhero-like. I don't understand that for this type of movie, especially when it's saying it's a soft reboot but also a sequel as well. So in the previous craft, we didn't really get the vibes of they're superheroes and they're having superhero powers. That's what that was the best part of the original craft, just because they followed and respected the actual Wicca magic practice, but also just made it more Hollywood. And that was just like, God, yeah, I just didn't understand what was the point of that to make him like superhero-esque. I was kind of conflicted with the soundtrack. The soundtrack, at first I didn't know if I liked it, but after watching it for the second time, I was growing to liking it more. It was just creating the mood and giving off the kind of feels that, oh, this is getting very witchy, Wicca. So now I appreciate the soundtrack of it, and I feel like that also was giving it more of a chance to have like a good score. Okay, the most annoying or the most difficult part of this movie for me was the writing / storytelling. This is what really killed it for me. Where to begin with this, man? I think we need to start calling out with what I'm most upset with, which I would say is the character development of the 4 girls in the New Coven. I felt the movie was just focusing highly too much on Lily. I just didn't get like a good census of the 3 other girls, which is Tabby, Lourdes, and Frankie. I really thought there was potential for their backstories and to get to know their struggles and to be able to relate and build that likable, feelings for them. And that just didn't happen at all for me, and I was very, very upset. And part of that, why I'm upset, is the original Craft movie. If we look back at that, we fell in love with all 4 girls in that coven, because we saw an insight of each of their struggles. We had one that was suffering from racism, and we had one that was suffering from her loving her body due to, a traumatic fire experience. And then we had another girl that was struggling with socioeconomic status, and then we had another girl who grew up without a mom and moving into a new place. So what about these other girls? And there was just like little hints in this movie about possibilities of struggles. For example, I remember in Tabby saying that she wished she had more black friends and she worries every day about her brother's safety. Why didn't we go more in depth with those? Why didn't we get, again, more insight with that? And also, I wanted to go more insight with Lourdes, who's the trans character, because we kind of see and feel, moments with Lourdes how she has progressed in her identity and her body and her overall self as a human being. But it would have been just interesting to kind of see, was her family cool with it, or what was the school like during her transitioning? Just didn't get any insight of that. I felt like that was kind of disrespectful in that way for the character. And then for Frankie, we kind of saw that she had this love interest for one of Lily's stepbrothers, but it would just been nice to maybe see some conflictingness, or maybe see her conduct a love potion or love magic spell again on him, and then go into that whole whatever you do comes back at you times 3. Never ever done that. And I understand how they can't do that if it's going to be within the same universe, world, or it's a sequel of the craft, because if we remember and reflect back on the original craft, there's, the higher power, Namon, and he warns the witches about, this, and then there's even a book of it. And speaking of the book, where the hell did they get the craft book? Where did they even start with witchcraft? What inspired them with it? That's where storytelling kind of helps with, drawing people in. And of course, there's the element of mystery sometimes for certain stories, but with this story, we kind of want to see if they are going to that witch story, that was in the first Craft movie, or did they, did Namon magically just give him a book? We don't know. With part of the storytelling too, there just seems so many holes in it, and I don't understand how this movie is even considered a horror film. And I did my research why it gained the label of supernatural horror, and that's just because there's witchcraft involved, and that's why it's horror. I find that kind of interesting, if I'm going to say that in the nicest way. But moving on from that, going back to the holes, I didn't know where the direction they were going with this. There's one moment where we're seeing one of the stepbrothers sleepwalking, and kind of is he being possessed by David's character, which is his dad, so it's is he getting possessed, or is he coming into his powers as a warlock? What's going on? Do all the 3 brothers, are they warlocks too? What's going on? Never explained. Don't know. They just one moment of sleepwalking and bam, nothing explained after. Another part of the story lining that I was very frustrated with was the ending part. So they had that final battle, which is David's character with the 4 girls in the coven, and I didn't understand, one, how after they kill him and just the lame circle of fire effect, if we're gonna stay on track, sorry. And then afterwards, after he dies, there's no police investigation, there's no explaining of what's gonna happen with the 3 boys that he lived with, and also what's Lily and her legal mom going to be doing now. There's just no explanation. We don't even know how much time has jumped forward in that point. I don't know. Also, in the writing that just seemed frustrating for me too was Lily's legal mom. How, did she know that Lily's a witch? Because it just didn't seem clear. Stay with me on here. So when Helen, aka Michelle's character, informs Lily, yes, you're adopted, I was working in the trauma center, and your mom told me to take you and just never tell you about Helen, or not Helen, about Nancy. So there was no mention of magic, witch, and as we move forward into the movie, we kind of see that, David, there's a moment David, pretended and shape-shifted into Helen, but we don't know what happened to even Helen, Or we don't know if even Helen found out that there's magic and witches, but then we kind of see at the very end when the four girls are walking on the sidewalk, and then Helen comes driving up to pick up Lily, and then Frankie makes that joke of, oh, are you staying away from dating warlocks? And then like Helen's laughing and kind of like, and so again, it's like, when did she know about witches? And that's the biggest thing about this movie. It seemed like it was very incomplete. There was just moments that, again, had those holes in the plot. I don't know if there was like a director's cut that I missed and I should have rented that instead. But even if so, with this version that I got, I had this feeling at the very end, like, again, it was very rushed. It was just pushed into production and pushed to just being released. There should have been more time spent on the plot itself just to survive. And then maybe it could have had like a better score at the end for me, even though the effects would have been still creating a shitty ness of it. But I'm gonna have to give this one an overall score a 6 out of 10, just due to really the storytelling killing its score hardcore, and then I'm gonna be very nitpicky. The filmography made the score lower a little bit for me too, and then just those little awkward moments in the acting. So that is my thoughts and feelings of The Craft Legacy. And you tell me down below if you really liked this movie or you didn't. What was like the most frustrating parts for you? And do you think there's going to be another sequel for this? Because the ending kind of leaves it off with that idea, and I don't know if they're going to be able to survive this, let's say, flop.